expressed, right? What is up, collective? Let's go ahead and start off with some deep breaths. I'm going to start us off with some affirmation and then move on to tarot. I wanted to make a part 2 to our shadow aspect reading. A lot of our shadow is wanting to express itself. I feel it heavily myself. That's what we're going to be talking about today. That's the topic today. Hello, welcome. My name is Kimberly. I go by Kimber. Welcome to Safe Space. We are in a safe space. We talk about intuition here. We talk about self-care here. We talk about personal development here. And we do a lot of tarot on this channel. Now, there may and has been a lot of myths and negative interpretation of tarot. Confirmation. But 111 on the timestamp. But I want to add that, okay, because what we are doing here in Safe Space, the purpose here and the intention here is to get us to our highest, utmost self by using tarot. I like to think of tarot as a mirror of our psyche and where we are with our psyche. Using tarot for me has helped me tremendously with my intuition and getting me out of my trauma and knowing where I am with my intuition and letting that energy flourish. Okay, now let's move on to some affirmations and let's get into the energy of our shadow. Because there has been, I feel like, this energy that I'm picking up as a collective, you guys, that we are giving in to our shadow and we are expressing a lot of that. During this solar eclipse, your mind might have felt a bit cluttered. You might have felt confusion to remember, I know what I am here to do, your purpose, your mission. So if you might have had a moment of confusion, this mind shift, if you will. Okay, you might have felt like you were asking so many questions, right? Which is good, introspection. Where am I with my career? Am I doing okay? Do I need help? Do I need a hand? Do I am I doing the things that I am supposed to do? 333 on the timestamp. And am I on the right path and where I am with my mission? Okay. This solar eclipse, these heavy shifts on releasing, okay, because this is what our body is wanting to do. I suppose that we are having to check in with our shadow. And for a lot of us, instead of checking in with your shadow and asking yourself in a gentle and soft way, you are being sporadic. Some of us are being sporadic. Some of us are being unkind to ourselves. We can, in fact, be just as kind and just as compassionate to others, to ourselves, as much as we are with others. How you are with others, how you are kind to others, and how nice and how compassionate you are to others, you can most definitely do that for yourself. That is what we forget. 444 on the timestamp. Why do we forget this? Because we weren't taught to self-taught. We weren't taught to self-care, to self-love, to self-soothe. that is why we are here today, and we're fixing it right here, right now. I'm also getting for Aries season collective, stay in the here and now and go from there. So in terms of relationships, if you are having trouble in your relationships and you're not finding yourself to be expressing yourself to people who are not listening to you, and this is frustrating to you, right? Because you want to be understood and you want to be seen as you are. It is best to place yourself with people who support you, who sees you, and who hears you. It is so vital in Aries season to be doing such things, 555 on the timestamp. The importance of expressing to the right people, the importance of expressing your shadow to the right people is so important. We talked about this on the first part, the part 1 shadow video reading. We talked about this on there, okay? It is important to acknowledge our shadow. Right now, collectively, we may be finding ourselves and experiencing ourselves in places and situations and certain circumstances with people who are not supporting you and who is not understanding you. Why are they not understanding you? Because they are not acknowledging their shadow. And you, collective, the self-aware one, is so self-aware of this, and you don't know how to tell them. There is only so much that we can do for them, right? I know what it's like to be in my shadow and only be in my shadow. I remember having negative thoughts all the time. I remember having evil thoughts all the time. I remember not stopping my thoughts, and it just kept going, and I didn't know how to maintain it. I remember being in my shadow in the pit and thinking to myself, how am I going to get out of this, and how long is it going to take? It feels like a prison, right? I am open to seeing both sides of a situation, right? And you right now, collective, you may be an empath. You may be, I'm talking to an empath. I'm talking to a hypersensitive here. I'm talking to somebody who holds a lot of empathy. And who is also rooted in their mission and their purpose. This is what is so hurtful, right? Because as you are seeing someone else's shadow side, as you are seeing someone else's shadow, and you are so self-aware of this, you know what it's like to feel like that. That is still bothering you to this day. When we talked about it in the first video, the first reading, okay, if you guys have not watched the first part of this, okay, go back to it. I believe I titled it, why it is important, essential to acknowledge our shadow. Okay, this is part 2. Go back to part 1 if you have not seen it. And I wanted to make a part 2 because I feel like it's a continuous thing in Aries season to be expressing and acknowledging our shadow. We just went through the solar eclipse. And what I'm getting here is that there has been, I have some notes here, there has been a lot of impulsiveness, a feeling of being carried away, sudden outbursts, unusual sporadic moments, right? You may be experiencing somebody over-explaining themselves, but it's not actually rooted in truth. You know, when you hear somebody over-explain themselves, but they don't actually have proof, they don't actually have evidence to show what they're saying. Somebody could just be talking about it, but not actually taking actions on it, okay? I heard Jay Shetty saying in his podcast that if you have intention, okay, but you're not taking actions. How does it go again? I always do this to myself. It's if you are taking actions without intention, there is no meaning. There is, in fact, no purpose. Right? If you have intentions, but you're taking actions, but you're not taking actions, it's impactful less. You're not making an impact. I hope I'm saying this correctly because it's not making sense in my mind, but as I'm saying it, I hope it's making sense to somebody. When we are setting clear intentions and then taking the actions, there's more impact, right? But when we're just taking actions and there is no intentions, what does it come with? What is it rooted in? Where is it rooted from? We don't know. So our shadow is wanting to speak a lot and wanting to express a lot. And some of us are not actually noticing that as we are expressing our shadow, are you hearing yourself speak about your shadow? Are you actually self-aware about the shadow you're speaking about? I feel it a lot for myself as well. Suppose that we are all just sick and tired of all these children of the corn. But we are also very empathetic to them. We actually do not like it when we see them hurt and when we see them in pain. Going back to what I was saying about when I was in my pit, when I was in my shadow, there was no inner positive dialogue. I did not have a positive inner dialogue. Everything that came out of my mouth, all the words. First of all, there were no words that came out of my mouth because I did not know my voice. I did not know how to use my voice. I did not know how to use my words, period. I was a silent kid. I was a silenced child. I did not know how to use my voice, right? Tarot, reading for people has helped me understand myself in a profound, tremendous way. I don't know how to explain this to you. But it is also the feeling that I get from it, the wholesome feeling that I get, the connection that I get with you through these cards. 10 of Pentacles. It is having to be in your own pace and honoring your body, honoring yourself. When we are in our shadow, notice that our mind is cluttered. Notice that our mind is not in order. When we are feeding too much of our shadow, when we are in our shadow way too much and we're not acknowledging our light enough, notice that our mind is so cluttered, confused. There is no sense of order. When I was in my shadow, there was no order. There was no sense of order. There was no sense of self. That's scary. When we don't have our sense of self, what do we depend on? What do we fall back to? Who do we fall back to? Where does it all come from? You start questioning yourself. When we are in our shadow and then we keep feeding our shadow, nothing is actually thriving. I said this in the part 1 reading. The light, the shadow feeds off of the light because it cannot thrive on its own. What happens then when you are not around light and you are only darkness and you are only shadow. The best thing to do at this time, the best thing to do is to recite our affirmations, right? I know what I'm here to do. I am open to seeing both sides of a situation. I know that I can do whatever I set my mind to. It's getting you motivated, right? It is generating you, coming back to being at full activation. Your chakras are activated, your crown chakra, your third eye is activated, right? And you are exuding energy from it, throat chakra, heart chakra. You're exuding energy from your chakras, aligned with your purpose. Okay? When we affirm to ourselves, I am courageous, I am brave, I am strong, I am confident, I am love. That's how we start generating ourselves and then stepping out of the shadow and into our light. We are activating ourselves. So if you are one experiencing somebody projecting onto you, and a whole lot of it, these sudden outbursts that people, unusual sporadic outbursts, right, that people are projecting onto you, collective. If you are one experiencing this person who's projecting onto you is trying to find their place of comfort within their body. Because all they've ever gotten to know and all they've ever gotten to acknowledge and feed is their shadow. They don't actually know what it's like to be in their light because they've never given themselves a chance to actually get to know their light. Does that make sense? And so while they are projecting onto you, this person who's in their shadow, they're confused. They're thinking to themselves, well, I'm expressing to you and you're not responding to me. Why would you respond to somebody who's projecting to you and all of a sudden being impulsive to you for no reason whatsoever? It is because they are not self-aware. They are lacking self-awareness on acknowledging their shadow the right way. I'm sure at least one or two or three of us on here right now, as I speak of it, has projected onto somebody before. Okay, we had experienced that ourselves, but now that you're more self-aware of yourself and where you are with yourself, there is no projection. It's only understanding, appreciation, compassion, kindness. How do we even get to a point where we can give ourselves kindness and compassion? We have to affirm to ourselves that we are not only shadow, but we are shadow and light. And perhaps in Aries season, a lot of our shadow is wanting to literally leave the body, leave our system. Our shadow is just wanting to be at rest. It's just trying to understand. But there is no sense of understanding when even you don't have a self-compassion for yourself. Even the people who are expressing their shadow does not even have they don't even have self-kindness, self-compassion. This is why it is so hurtful to watch. For some of us, I'm getting like this is a start of something new. So if you are acknowledging your shadow and acknowledging it the healthy way and not acknowledging it coming from a place of self-hate, are you stepping into your light, your inner light more and acknowledging your inner light more? The goal here, collective, is to acknowledge our shadow as much as we can, as much as possible, depending on the severity of your trauma. Okay, it takes little by little, bit by bit, by and by, every single day to get us out of trauma mindset and then get us into abundance mindset. So our goal here, as we are acknowledging our shadow and soothing our shadow, we have to also affirm to ourselves before we step into our light that we are capable, that we are possible, that we are not what people say we are, because that's the number one thing that gets us down, right? Excuse me, I need to open the door. 1 second. That is the number one thing that gets us bogged down, is people's opinions, people's criticisms, people's judgments. Bottom of the deck, I have judgment, okay? I understand that everyone has their own unique path and challenges. These are the number one distractions, right? People have so many opinions about us. But this is why self-awareness is also very important, because while you have self-awareness on you, while you have self-awareness supporting you, you know where you are with yourself, and you are, in fact, not what everyone says you are, because you know where you are with yourself. A lot of this shadow aspect happening in Aries season is also making us go a little crazy in our mind. It's a bit cluttered, right? It feels a bit cluttered. There's a lot of distractions. Perhaps the distractions are coming in to test you, collective. So just keep that in mind. Affirm to yourself, I know that I can do whatever I set my mind to. Perseverance. I know what I am here to do. Purpose. The distractions is there to test you. I feel like this is also a message for myself, because there has been a little bit of a distraction for me. You ever notice that as soon as you rise and you ascend, and you just consistently ascend, and you just keep rising and rising and rising, and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm on the right track. And then all of a sudden somebody just takes you down. Jealousy, envy, judgment, criticisms. I understand that everyone has their own unique path and challenges. Judgment. What we have to remember is not let the shadow, this is so hard for some of us empaths and hypersensitives, to not let the shadow get to us, because the shadow is in fact our work. The shadow that people express, their shadow, when we see instantly, if you are clairvoyant and if you are intuitive and highly intuitive, and you see someone, you see right through somebody, you see right through their shadow, how do you tell them that you see their shadow? How do you tell them to heal their shadow? How do you tell them to get into it and acknowledge it so that they can be more in their light? Sometimes I get this weird vibe that people just want to stay in their shadow because it's cooler. Does that make sense? I just get that weird vibe that some people like to stay in their shadow because it's trendy, it's what's cool, it's what's going to attract so many women and so many men, it's for the wrong reasons. We can acknowledge our shadow, we can understand our shadow, but not stay in it and keep feeding it. The reason why behind that is because nobody wants to do the inner work. The inner work is just as hard than staying in. It's just as hard as it is staying in our shadow. When we don't do the inner work, it is just as tough and just as hard, right? There's got to be a balance. Think of the scales, right? There's got to be a balance. We can't just keep feeding the shadow and then ignoring our light. Then we're not seeing the fruitful things in life and the more abundant things in life. We're not actually paying attention to what is good for us. So when we don't acknowledge our shadow and neglecting our light, we're actually not setting clear boundaries. And we are actually not sleeping well. We aren't actually we also do not have a quiet mind. It's very confusing up there. There's no calm, peace, tranquility. There's none of that, right? When we are too much in our shadow, we're irritated all the time. Inferior. I hate my job. I hate this person. It's the negative inner dialogue that triggers empaths, hypersensitives, healers, right? Because that's the thing that we want to get to the bottom of and fix. When we hear somebody speak from a negative inner dialogue, when we hear somebody have an inner dialogue, negative inner dialogue, we're thinking, what can I do and how can I help this person be more kind to themselves? It isn't that you are trying to be better. It isn't that you are trying to level up, step up, have superiority over them. It isn't that you are having power over them. No. But if that is your purpose, to have power over people, just know you're in the wrong place. Because we're not here to have power over people. We are here to know that we have power, but we're not going to use it against people. That's not what my channel is about. My channel is about helping you get to a place of knowing that you are your own leader without harming people. Thank you. We are here to follow our purpose, and our purpose is to help others see themselves as a leader just as much as you. So if you are here and you want power over people and you want superiority over people, you are in the wrong place, homie. Because this is a place of understanding, growth, personal growth, spiritual expansion. This is about wanting to have a better future, thinking about our future children, being a part of the change. This is what safe space is about. Safe space is about change. It isn't about staying in the shadow and feeding the shadow and just being in the shadow. It's about growing and expanding and getting yourself out of the shadow. The shadow is so important at this time in Aries season. We have a lot of it. We have been in it for years. Our trauma has held us back for so many fucking years. And how much work we've been doing, collective. I'm talking to a lot of people here. If you are one who has been dedicated in healing yourself and trying to make yourself better and trying to keep up with your health, mind, body, and spirit. Spirit is a very big aspect to this as well, to our personal development. Without spirit, what are we essentially, right? This is what safe space is all about as well. It's about being with spirit, not without. We want to be, remember what I said, we want to be fully activated. Being with spirit consists of you being in full activation. I believe that every single time we are spewing out negative inner dialogue, you are also taking away from yourself. Does that make sense? If you find yourself to be in your shadow and you just cannot find a place where you can have positive inner dialogue, it takes you away from your own potential. It takes you away from your own abundance, and it builds walls around your heart, and it builds walls around your mind, restricting you and only limiting you, right? When we have a negative inner dialogue, we're not actually attracting the right company, right? In your mind, you may think that you are attracting a lot of company, and by attracting a lot of company to you, it's a good thing because you're surrounded by so many. You know how in high school you start off with a big group and then it just gets little and little and little and little and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and then all of a sudden you look in the mirror and you're like, there's no one around me, it's just me. Perhaps your group, the group that you've been in, perhaps the circle that you have been in is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and you are now finding yourself away from it. You are now finding yourself removing yourself from it because there's a reason and there's a purpose for that. I know what I am here to do. It is only really teaching you to be separated from the rest to get to know you. Remember what I was saying in the beginning, self-compassion. The kindness, the compassion you're giving to other people, you can give that to yourself just as much, maybe even more. It is so easy. We were taught to be nice to people and we were taught to people please. But notice that for some of us, we actually were not taught to love ourselves, to care and soothe ourselves. Not even love, but just like soothe and care, right? I realize that I am testing my resolve to live in the energy of love. We were taught to stay in fear. Society has only really taught us how to be in fear. But fear in what? Fear in what? Fear in self. This isn't about fear in anything and anyone. It's a fear in yourself that you are ignoring. So when we're not acknowledging our light, you are in fact in fear and not realizing and getting to know your potential and being in the light. It is just, I'm picking up that it is just as harmful to stay in your shadow as it is staying in your light. But in your light, there is so much more self-awareness. Self-awareness. This is awareness on your behaviors, awareness on your inner dialogue, your awareness about how you show up out there and how you are around people, how you treat other people. It is the fear in ourselves that we ignore, that we neglect. It is the fear in ourselves that we do not acknowledge enough. Because who teaches us how to do that? We don't get that enough, I suppose, right? We don't get that enough. How do we get ourselves out of the fear? Okay. I'm going to leave that there. I also want to show you guys, I showed you the 10 of Pentacles. I have the King of Cups and the Page of Cups here, okay? I'm getting that this is self-actualization. This is knowing your shadow, acknowledging your shadow, and then stepping out of it and getting to know your own light. You are the light. Like, you are in fact light. You are only light, and you are only love, and you are only the good qualities. You are only kindness. You are only compassion. You are only confidence. But society has taught us and showed us the opposite. We've only been fed fear. Because you are potentiality. Perhaps you have been fed fear your whole life because you are potentiality. Does that make sense? You are infinite possibilities. I may be talking to somebody here who is I I was going to say the chosen starseed in your family. You are one carrying a lot for your family. This has a lot to do with inheritance, okay? You have been in this fight and have been in this fight. I have the 5 of Swords and the Page of Swords. A lot of youthful energy here. I have the Page of Cups and the Page of Swords. You have been in this fight. I have the Sun, bottom of the deck. I love that. Perhaps you have been the one regenerating your family line. You have been the cycle breaker, generational curse breaker in your family, and you have been in this journey fighting for your rights, fighting for your perseverance, okay? This is separated from how you are exactly seen and perceived in your family. You're separated from that. You have your own sense of autonomy. You have your own sense of self. You have gotten to a place where you know who you are now because you never have. Does that make sense, collective? You have been in a place where you felt like you were not seen and heard for so many years, and now you're finding yourself to be true, right? In yourself. You're finding yourself to be honoring yourself more, setting boundaries, and only to set boundaries so that you can better yourself. You can heal, break these generational curses, become the person that you want to be. You have been in this fight for quite some time, right? And also I want to add that the rewards are coming, okay? I feel it, I see it in this. I think that the more that I too am expressing a lot of this, okay, it is also helping us feel lighter and brighter. You ever notice that when you remove yourself from a place that is toxic, when you remove yourself from a place from people who are toxic, that you feel lighter and brighter? Exactly what you deserve to feel. Kind of like that. You have been in this fight of fighting for justice, fighting for your rights, fighting for what you're standing up for. This is fighting for your journey. And nobody sees your journey more than you do. Nobody sees your journey unless you talk about your journey, but nobody sees your journey the way you do. Nobody actually lives your life and the circumstance that you're in and experiencing it the way that you are more than you do. So nobody actually has the right to say whatever they want to say and assume whatever they want to say about you and perceive you as whatever they want you to be. That is hate. But you are not hate, collective. If you are watching my videos and you have had watched my videos, you are not hate, you are love. Safe space is all about love, whether you like it or not. Safe space is all about being in love, showing love, and showing love to shadow. Because that's the only way we're going to get us out of our shadow, is to just give love and show love. There comes a point, I want to also add, there comes a point where when you're giving love, for instance, when you're giving love to somebody who is a narcissist, somebody who has a narcissist personality disorder, if you are giving love to them, now that's a different story, because there comes a point where you should not, and it's not necessary, right? But I suppose that's another topic that we should talk about on another video. Coming back to what I was saying, that you have been fighting in this journey, and a lot of it. Ooh, I'm getting also with this Page of Swords, how much you have also been following the signs. The signs, the birds, the flock of birds. You also have been seeing flock of birds, okay? For some of you, I'm getting a lot on the signs with the Page of Swords. You're just like, come on, let's go. What's next? Tell me what to do, right? Let me just finish my mission for today. What's the assignment for today? It's that kind of discipline. So if I'm talking to somebody who is rooted in their light right now, and the reason why you are rooted in your light so much, and the reason why you have had so much empathy and carrying so much of this empathy, and the reason why you're on this mission to be more purposeful in life, is because you are in your shadow. And that really made an impact on your life. So if I'm talking to somebody who is rooted in their light and who is giving light and who is all love, light, and happiness, you did something about it. And you are now triggering shadow all around you when you were the one being triggered at first because you were in your shadow. And now that you are in your light and you're recognizing yourself even more in your light and getting to know more of your inner light, now you're seeing the shadow aspect in everyone. You know, when you've stepped out of the house for the first time in like how many years, like coming out of a cave, and you're seeing people for their truest selves, you're seeing the world for what it actually is. You have now, after how many years of being in the cave, you're seeing the world for what it actually is. You're seeing yourself in your light for the first time. And that's good news. We need more people around us who's going to support that and acknowledge that and encourage it 100%. Collective. I'm going to stop here. Thank you guys for always showing love and support. This channel would not be the way that it is if it was not for you. I will see you guys in the next. Thank you for being here and listening to me and hanging out with me. I thought this would be the perfect reading, okay, with this solar eclipse, Aries season, and the energy that we're getting. I will see you guys in the next. Take care, you guys. I love you so much. Bye.